game.
And welcome back to Sports Night. Ken Coleman is the latest in our army of great reporters here on Sports Night. I bring his name up because he's going to be bringing you a series called Life is Sport. Here's the first installment with Atlanta Falcons head coach Mike Smith.
What was your first experience with sports as a child?
Oh gosh, really my first experience with sports was my dad was a junior high football coach, and I used to jump in the back of the pickup truck. Of course, they wouldn't let you do that now anymore, you know, with the laws and such. But I used to jump in the back of the pickup truck and go to practice, and with his team and watch him practice. And probably my first experience that I remember, believe it or not, I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and my dad, at the end of practice, I'd hang out with the guys, and at the end of practice, he would line them up to do wind sprints, and he'd run them a few wind sprints. And I can remember he would call me out, put me in front of the whole football team, and he'd say, "Hey, if Mike catches the ball, no more wind sprints. If he drops the ball, he's going to have to run some more." Of course, if he wanted them to run some more wind sprints, he threw the ball a lot harder than he did if he thought they had run enough. So that really was my first experience, and I was a guy that would hang around the locker room with those guys. They were 13, 14-year-old junior high players. I was a 5 or 6-year-old, and I can remember standing on the sideline watching many, many games.
What was the first valuable lesson that you can now think back on and go, this really taught me something about life?
Probably the ups and downs of playing the game and playing the sport, that the outcome isn't always going to be the way you want it, even though you may work extremely hard and you've prepared and your teammates have prepared. Oftentimes there's going to be roadblocks that are going to be put up, and I think that's something that I learned early on. Even though you work hard and you feel like you've done everything that you can to be successful, sport will challenge everybody.
So here you are in your senior season, you're passionate about the game, but it's also an opportunity to make it to the next level, help with your college education, and you have an injury.
Well, that was probably, up to that point in my life, was the biggest adversity that I had faced. I was an all-state football player as a junior going into my senior year. The second game of the season, I broke my arm in 5 places, and all of a sudden you're not the commodity that you thought you were in terms of having an opportunity to be a scholarship player. But it opened my eyes in terms of my love for the game of football. My high school coach, Phil Rehart, allowed me. I said, "Coach, is there any way I can help out even more?" And I started, I started breaking down tape. Would go on scouting trips with him. We'd drive up and watch a game, and I kind of learned a little bit more about football from a different perspective. And fortunately, there was a coach that had recruited me at East Tennessee State, Miles Aldridge, that really believed in me and gave me an opportunity to go to East Tennessee State, and that was a blessing for me.
How important has just the game of sport, the opportunity, how has it shaped you and your success?
Well, I don't think that there's anything out there that's shaped me more than sports. There's competition, there's winning, there's losing, there's heartbreak, there's great feelings. It's just, it really basically parallels life. You can take what you learn in sports to your everyday life, to your business. There's so many things that you learn, and you learn a lot quicker in sports than I think than you do in living your life.
If you could just give one message, one thought to every young person in the world, just about life that you think is from your core, what would that one thought be?
To live every day to the best of your ability, and everybody's abilities are different, but to the best of your ability, try to be your best in everything that you do.
Coach Mike Smith, thanks so much for your example in the community, spending time with us and sharing the lessons that you've learned in life. I know we're all better for it, but we thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ken. I enjoyed visiting with you.
Thanks. You, Coach.
Well, I'm duly inspired after that interview. Let's bring in the man behind the questions, and that is Ken Coleman. Ken, good to see you.
Good to be here, guys.
Great piece. We appreciate it. You've spent the last 2 training camps with Coach Smith. What makes him tick?
Well, you know, I asked him at one point in that interview, what are your core values? And, you know, he said instantly, he went, respect, humility, and drive. And I think respect and humility are the 2 keys when you uncover Mike Smith, because he grew up the oldest of 8 children, working class family. Both parents were educators. So early on, while he had a DNA-coded passion in him, he knew he was going to have to work harder than everybody else. And you can just really see that just encompasses everything he does.
Well, I know you got a chance, too, to sit in on a couple of team meetings and kind of get the behind-the-scenes look of what happened. What sort of makes him the coach that he is to these players? Yeah,
you hear the term players coach a lot, but this is a guy that's not their buddy. I asked him, I said, that experience we saw in the piece of coaching as a senior in high school, your peers, was that a huge influence on your coaching style? And he said, absolutely the biggest influence, because I had to learn how to communicate to my peers. And when you see him in team meetings, I've gotten to sit in 2. Again, he's not an eloquent, dynamic speaker, but the players just connect with him because he's so authentic. I think that's the word. He just communicates, and he looks him in the eye, and you just feel the trust in the authentic style that really is taking over that entire team.
And Ken, obviously he loves to coach, but coaching isn't the only thing in his life. He'll proudly talk about his family.
Oh, you know, he's a family man. Again, the oldest of 8 kids, loves his wife and daughter. In fact, in the interview, he said, you know, Ken, I couldn't have made it up the coaching ladder. Here's a guy that truly started at the bottom. And, you know, his first NFL coaching job was a defensive assistant for Brian Billick with the Ravens, and he was literally just watching tape. But he said, you know, I couldn't have made it without my wife and my daughter. They're a huge part of it. And again, that speaks to who he really is. I mean, Mike Smith, just a perfect name. I think God knew what he was doing when he said, well, we'll just give him that name, because he just embodies the everyman in every facet of his life.
Well, Ken, good stuff, and that's just the first of many Life is Sport to come. So a little tease on something we got coming up?
Well, yeah, we're working hard. I don't want to jinx them, but we got some very big names coming out of the Southeastern Conference and in the golf world, so very excited about what's coming.
We'll see them then. Thank you very much. Ken Coleman with us here on Sports Night. You remember the name Gaines Adams? He's played in the NFL, been rather anonymous, and we'll find out why when we come back.